really ain't the same. Yeah, we 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 really ain't the same.
Hey guys, we are currently in Nigeria, about to go to the pool. But before we go,
we thought we'd just quickly tell you some travel tips.
Yes.
Just for when you're off on your hollybobs as well. So I'm just going to quickly tell you about travel insurance because it's something that's like you kind of book your holiday and you're all excited and you're like, oh yeah, let me get travel insurance just like in case I lose my case. No. You have travel insurance in case you become ill abroad, and if you've got sickle cell, like that is something that could happen. You know this. So depending on how you are with your sickle cell, say if like your sickle cells were controlled and you haven't had many admissions, then travel insurance can be quite easy to get. You do need to go to specific companies that do cater for long-term conditions, because most travel insurances, for example, through your bank, through any like
compare the
market, they won't really cover you for pre-existing medical conditions. There are companies out there that will do that. For me personally, I use All Clear Travel, and they cover for pre-existing conditions, including sickle cell. The reason I went for them is because my sickle cell wasn't well controlled at the time I wanted to travel. So I had lots of admissions in and out. I had blood transfusions. I've had complications. So you have to input all of that if you want your insurance to be valid. You can't put half the information and not the best because you think it might make the price go up. Because if you do get sick, they do look into it and it will just void your policy. So you paid your money for nothing and they're not going to refund it. But I'm like, no. So make sure you input all the correct medical information about you and your sickle cell. If you've got any other conditions like asthma or arthritis or I don't know, anything else, you need to include that as well.
Also, do check with your insurance if you do have any admissions. If you get like annual cover, if you have any admissions in between, travelling, check with your insurance company that you're still covered, because some insurance companies will void your policy if any of the information that you put in initially is different, i.e. if when you put it in you had no crisis and then all of a sudden you've had one, they may void your policy or you may have to pay more. So make sure you double check that before you travel again as well.
Yeah, that's good advice, especially for blood transfusions as well.
Oh, yes. Medication. Before you travel, make sure you've got a prescription with all of your up-to-date medication on there, and make sure you get a letter from your consultant or haematologist, which will state all of the medication that you'll be travelling with. Now, depending on where you go, do check the countries that you go into, because if you're going in with morphine or stuff like that, you may need more than a letter to allow you into the country. Yeah. For example, countries like Australia. So just make sure you check the guides to the countries that you go into, what you'll need if you do need to travel with controlled drugs. Yeah. And make sure that the letter that you get from your consultant lists all and exactly the medication that you will be travelling with. Yeah. Also, make sure all your medication stays in their box, and make sure that your full name, which matches the name on your passport, is on the boxes clearly as well. So when you do travel, you won't have no complications. You can say, this is mine. It's all in the boxes. It's all been prescribed. It coincides with your letter, and it also coincides with your name.
If you are travelling with any liquid medication, especially for children, with the restrictions now with the 100ml bottles, you can sometimes carry more than that if it's a medication. So just make sure that's well documented, and you let your airline know, and you just check with the airport that you're flying from as well if there's any additional information for them. The other thing is, when you are travelling, obviously normally for a healthy individual, your GP or another healthcare professional will say, okay, do you need any vaccinations? Do you need any malaria tablets? It's the same thing for us. It's even more important for us to make sure that we're up to date with our general ones like the UMEVAX, and we need to just make sure that we've got the right vaccinations as well, our boosters. The best website that you can use to check yourself is called Fit for Travel. We'll put the link in the video. And that website, you just type in what country you're going to, and it will tell you exactly the precautions you need to take and what antimalarials, if you need any, and what vaccinations you will require or you might want to have additional. The additional ones you don't have to have, but make sure you always get covered for the ones that you must have.
And despite what anybody says, we can get malaria. Yes. You do need to take your anti-malaria tablets and yellow fever and stuff like that, depending on where you're going.
Right, so when you arrive at the airport and you're ready for your holiday and stuff like that, you can organise something called special assistance, and that just means that if you're travelling alone or with a party, the person that has sickle cell can have access to a wheelchair and a guide that will collect them as soon as they check in, and they will sit with them and duty free, or they'll take you around the shops. They will then wheel you to your gate, so definitely look into that. And I would say request that when you book your flights, and then when you get to the airport, they ask you if you still want to, if you don't.
You may be able to request oxygen as well from your airline. So when you do make your booking, if you are getting special assistance, or if not, contact the airline or whatever, whoever it is that you're travelling with, and just say to them, can you get oxygen, special assistance, that it should all come as a package, but just in case. And even if you don't need it throughout the duration of the flight, they will have it on standby. So they will say to you, if you need the oxygen, just press the button and they'll bring it to you. That's, a good thing to have as well, because your oxygen levels can drop when you're on the plane travelling. First of all, make sure you travel with flight socks. Flight socks are important for your circulation, so make sure you wear those, put them on before you get onto the plane. And obviously when you are on the plane, make sure you move around, do some gentle exercises, walk up and down the plane. Don't just sit down, especially if you're on a long flight. Don't sit down for the whole time. Please make sure that you are staying mobile whilst you're on the plane as well. Definitely. And if possible, when you are booking, see if you can get extra leg room, because it just helps big time if you can stretch your legs.
Exactly.
When I go onto planes, this is not something that I would say is a definite for you to do, but it's something that I do. I have a sensitive chest, and I do tend to suffer a lot from chest infections and stuff like that. So what I tend to do is wear a face mask on the plane. So as soon as I get on the plane, I'll put my face mask on. Those ones that just clip around your ears, cleaners wear them, or lady that does your nails, them kind of masks. I keep that on. If people look at you funny, what I tend to say is, someone's asked me before, oh my gosh, are you sick? Like, why are you wearing that? And I'm just like, no, I just don't want your germs. But yeah, so I tend to wear a face mask, and I'll keep it on for the duration of the flight. Obviously, I'll take it off to, speak to people, eat food, have a drink, etc. But I tend to keep it on for the duration of the flight. You're in a locked plane, you don't know what airborne, germs and things are there, and as you already know, I am very scornful, so me and germs and things like that just don't run. So when you hear people sneezing and coughing on the plane, just know that you got your face mask on and you're fine. So by this time you should be on your way to your lovely holiday country, wherever you're going. When you get there, make sure you take the necessary precautions to look after yourself. If you're going to a hot country or cold country, make sure you stay hydrated. Drink plenty, and make sure you're drinking bottled water. Don't drink tap water, or don't trust any water that anyone will give you. Make sure the bottle is sealed and you're drinking plenty of water, more than usual if you're in a hot country, because you do need to make sure that you're staying hydrated. If you're on a beach or in the pool, just be mindful of the temperature difference. So sometimes you might come out, the sun might be gone in, it's a bit chilly. Just be mindful of that, because that can cause a crisis, going from hot to cold straight away. So make sure you mind that. And also, take it easy. You might have just done a long period of time travelling, so your body might be a bit, even though you probably don't feel it, you're probably in that holiday exciting mood, your body might be a little bit more run down than usual. So make sure you take it easy, make sure you still rest, don't do too much.
Have your chill time. Definitely take that time.
And lastly, wherever you're travelling to, make sure you find out where your nearest hospital is. Not to say that you're going to get sick, but at least if you do, you know where it is, and you know that, it's up to standards or whatever, and you know that they'll be able to understand your sickle cell. Just do your research before you travel anywhere.
Definitely.
And lastly, but not leastly, have a good time.
Yes.
Speaking of that, can we go to the pool?
Yeah, we're going to the pool.
Jump on the plane. Fly away, fly away.